Get ready for a story that sounds like it's straight out of a movie, but I promise you, it is 100% real. It's the story of a boy from a village with no electricity who fought through drought and poverty to build a multi-billion-dollar empire. And yeah, this quote just says it all, doesn't it? It perfectly sets the stage for the journey we're about to explore. It's a story that just shatters all expectations and shows you what's possible with relentless hard work and a little bit of hope. I mean, just let that sink in. From a village literally struggling for water to a 6,000 crore rupee empire, we're talking about a company that now goes head-to-head with giants like PepsiCo. So the big question is, how on earth did they pull it off? All right, so their story doesn't begin with some brilliant light bulb moment. Nope. It begins with sheer, utter desperation. The Varani brothers were forced to leave their home, carrying the entire weight of their family's hope on their young shoulders. So what was life like for them back then? We're talking the 1970s in a small village, and this wasn't just simple living. This was a daily, grinding struggle for survival. Just try and picture it. No electricity. If the rains failed, the crops failed. And if the crops failed, well, there was no food on the table. That was their reality. So to give his sons a chance to escape this, their father did something incredible. He sold the family's last piece of land and handed them this 20,000 rupees. Now you have to understand, this wasn't seed money for some fun startup. This was it. This was their entire life savings. The pressure. Can you even imagine? The pressure to not let their father down must have been absolutely immense. And then, disaster. They lost it. All of it. They tried to start a business in the city of Rajkot selling farm equipment, but they were young, inexperienced, and they got scammed. Just like that, their family's entire fortune was gone. Wiped out. They were left with absolutely nothing. So what do you do when you've hit rock bottom? Well, for them, this is where their real education began. And it wasn't in some fancy business school. Not at all. It was in one of the most unlikely places you can imagine, the canteen of a local movie theater. It was here they learned their first and maybe their most important life lesson, this idea that work is worship. They took literally any job they could get their hands on. Serving food, sure, but also pasting movie posters, checking tickets, even staying late to repair torn seats. For them, no job was too small, and they did everything with complete and total dedication. And for all that hard work, what was Chandubai Varani's salary? Get this, 90 rupees a month. I mean, things were so incredibly tight that at one point they literally had to sneak out of their rented room in the middle of the night because they couldn't even afford the 50 rupee rent. Just what? But you know what? That incredible work ethic, that work is worship philosophy, it paid off, big time. Their boss was so blown away by their honesty and dedication that he eventually just handed the entire canteen contract over to them. Their character had earned them their first real shot. Okay, so now they're running the canteen. And you might think this is where the big genius idea strikes, right? But it didn't happen like that. Their big break wasn't some flash of inspiration. It was born from a really simple, persistent, and honestly, incredibly frustrating problem they dealt with every single day. See, as canteen operators, potato wafers were a huge seller. People loved them. But their suppliers, oh man, their suppliers were a complete nightmare. Deliveries were always late, the quality was terrible, and they just couldn't keep up with customer demand. It was a constant headache. And this is where their second key philosophy comes into play. You know, it's easy to fall into a state of chinta, or worry, just complain and feel stuck. But they chose chintan, which is contemplation. Instead of just worrying, they stopped, and they thought deeply. They asked, okay, how can we actually solve this? And that's when they started to see it. A huge opportunity hidden right inside their biggest frustration. Which leads to their third big lesson, and I love this one. Chandubai believes that if you overthink something, you get paralyzed by analysis, and you'll never do it. So his advice, do your basic homework, sure, but then you just have to take the leap. In his words, kud pado, just jump in. And that is exactly what they did. They jumped in. They took 10,000 rupees and set up this tiny makeshift production line right in their backyard. Remember, they had zero experience doing this. It was pure trial and error. They'd finish their long shifts at the canteen and then work through the night, slowly but surely perfecting their very own recipe. All right, so now they have a product. But as anyone in business knows, turning a great backyard recipe into a recognized brand, well, that's a whole different war.
This next phase was all about pure grit and some seriously clever problem solving. And just look at how fast things started moving. This timeline is wild. In 1982, they're making wafers at home. By 1989, only 7 years later, they're taking out a massive loan to open the biggest potato wafer plant in the entire state. And the name, Balaji, that came from a small temple to the deity Hanuman right there inside the cinema hall, a constant reminder of where it all began.
But of course, scaling up brings new problems. When they tried to sell to local shops, the retailers were just awful. I mean, they would return half-eaten packets claiming they were stale, pay with fake money, or sometimes just flat out refuse to pay at all. It was brutal.
But these guys just did not give up. They pivoted. They thought, okay, if the retailers won't sell our stuff, fine, we'll just bypass them completely. So they loaded up bicycles and then motorcycles and went from village to village, getting their high-quality wafers directly into the hands of customers themselves. And that brings us to the core principles that turned this tiny operation into an absolute giant. Let's distill their entire journey down into the key lessons that really define the Balaji philosophy.
Their fourth lesson is a concept called Dune. It means a passionate, all-consuming focus. And boy, was this idea put to the test. A massive multinational company offered to buy them out. They refused. Why? Not because of the money, but because hundreds of loyal customers wrote letters begging them not to sell, worried the taste and the price would change. They chose their customers over a massive payday. That's Dune. And the fifth and final lesson might be the most radical of all. They don't believe in sales, which they see as pushing a product on someone. They believe in service. Their entire focus is on making a product so good at a price so fair that it creates a natural pull from the market. Think about it. They don't have sales targets. They just try to fulfill the demand. How many companies can say? So where have those 5 lessons led them? From a single frying pan to a 6,000 crore rupee company. Today, they've got 4 huge factories, 7,000 employees. They're the #3 snack company in all of India. And in their home turf of Western India, they are the undisputed champions. Not even a global giant like PepsiCo's Lay's can touch them there. So as we wrap up this incredible story, we're left with this one powerful question. Whether it's treating your work like worship, finding an opportunity inside a problem, or just having the courage to jump in, what's the one lesson from the Varani brothers' journey that you can take and apply to your own life starting right now?